Hey everybody, welcome. Thank you, thank you so much for turning out tonight. We're all here to save our neighborhood, the East Village and Greenwich Village, and make sure it does not turn into Silicon Alley, which a lot of developers and apparently our mayor would like to see happen, but we're here to say no. My name is Andrew Berman. I'm the Executive Director of the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. I'm joined here tonight by Assembly Member Deborah Glick, representatives of City Council Member Rosie Mendez'd, who wanted to be here tonight, but I know she's stuck at something else. I believe State Senator Brad Hoylman is going to be joining us. We've got representatives from Community Board 2, the East Village Community Coalition, the Lower East Side Preservation Initiative, Cooper Square Committee, East Village Independent Merchants Association, the Met Council on Housing, the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors, and the Lower East Side Power Partnership. That is quite a coalition. And we are united here today to say that we want to save our neighborhood. And we are here because boutique office buildings do not belong on St. Mark's Place like the $150 million office building plan for that corner right there on the corner of St. Mark's Place and 3rd Avenue. We are here because 313-room hotels do not belong on East 11th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenues that demolish and replace scores of units of long-term housing, much of it affordable, demolished to make way for a hotel being built by a campaign fundraiser for the mayor. We are here today because 300-foot tall condo towers on University Place and 12th Street do not belong there, especially when, if the mayor had listened to us years ago and rezoned this area, that could have been a 10 or 12-story building with lots of units of affordable housing in it, but the mayor refused, and we are here to tell him that we are going to take back our neighborhood. We're here today because right now there are at least 3 tech office buildings up to 300 feet tall in height or greater that are being planned or built on a little stretch of Broadway right in between the Village and East Village, between 11th and 13th Streets, and that does not belong there. We're here today because we have been trying to get the mayor for 3 years now, 3 years, to consider a rezoning proposal that would put reasonable height limits in place for new development, that would incentivize the creation and preservation of affordable housing, which the mayor claims is his top priority, which would help preserve the residential character of neighborhoods, not have residential neighborhoods turned into hotel and office building zones, which is what's happening to this area right now. But the mayor has consistently said no. And we're here today because all of these problems that I've just described to you are about to get a ton worse if the mayor gets the approvals that he's looking for a tech hub on 14th Street, if it is not accompanied by these protections for the surrounding neighborhood. You know, it's not often in life that you have the possibility of creating a win-win situation. There are some good things about the tech hub and what it would do, but there are also some very bad things about what it would do to this neighborhood. If the mayor would just stop being so stubborn and would say, yes, I will agree to zoning protections for the surrounding neighborhood so that the tech hub doesn't have the harmful impacts that it otherwise could, we could actually have something that we could all agree upon. And I think we've all learned from experience from looking at San Francisco and Seattle and Cambridge that while the tech industry can be a great force for economic development, it can also be a great force for displacement and destroying communities and destroying neighborhoods, and we don't want to see that happen here today. So we're here to send a message loud and clear to the mayor that you have got to stop thinking of our neighborhood as the next stop on the Silicon Alley Express. You've got to start thinking about it as a neighborhood. The East Village and the Village are great places to live, to work, to come for entertainment, and we will not see them destroyed by your plans to turn them into something that they should not be. So I would like to invite our first speaker up. And by the way, I just want to make sure everybody knows on the signs that you have holding up, they're more than just signs. They are action plans. On the back of those signs, it tells you what you can do. And please do not leave here tonight without doing them, without sending those letters to the mayor and everybody else, letting them know how important this is to you. I'd like to hand the microphone off to an elected official who is a fierce advocate for both of these neighborhoods, State Assembly Member Deborah Glick.
I want to thank Andrew and everybody at the Society and all of the local community groups that have for years joined together to protect what is a very popular, low-rise, mixed-use community. That is what we have had. It has been a real treasure for New York. It attracts tourists. It attracts movie industry. Okay, I know that's a mixed blessing, but it is part of our history. And seeing New York homogenized during the Bloomberg administration, we thought it would come to an end, but it is only getting worse. So I want to say to Bill de Blasio, don't turn yourself into Bloomberg 2.0.
He already is.
We have a community that is vibrant. It is a residential and mixed-use neighborhood that deserves to retain its character and nature. We deserve to keep our open skies, air and light. Don't suffocate us just for a quick buck from developers who come and go, who couldn't care less about who we are and go back to their bedroom communities, make a ton of money, and don't invest in affordable housing. That's what you got elected on. Let's actually see you focus on it without destroying our neighborhoods and turning them over to the rapacious greed of developers who couldn't care less about the people who made these neighborhoods what they are. So thank you very much for being here tonight. We're going to work together, lots of letters, lots of phone calls to city council members, to the mayor, and let's show them that this is a united community that will not be destroyed by that greed and total disregard for human scale. And that's what we have here, and that's what we're going to protect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. We really appreciate that. Hold up those signs. No Silicon Alley in our neighborhood. Defend the East Village and Greenwich Village. And speaking of defending the East Village and Greenwich Village, our next speaker is the state senator who represents these two neighborhoods, State Senator Brad Hoylman.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm State Senator Brad Hoylman. I do represent the East Village as well as the West Village. What's left of it, right? I mean, look at the sky. It's such a rarity that we can gather as a community and actually see the heavens above us. And unfortunately, it seems that if some people in City Hall have their way, we're not even going to see this.
Nope.
We see our neighborhood with a target on it. A target from developers who, frankly, are getting a pretty sweet deal.
Yep.
A pretty sweet deal out of the new tech hub. My question is, what are we getting out of the tech hub?
Nothing.
What are we getting out of economic development? What protections are we getting for our neighborhood? We are happy to have Facebook here. The Daily Mail is right here in this building behind us. We've got Twitter. We've got Google. By the way, not for nothing, that most of those tech companies, they like 19th century cast iron buildings, it seems.
Yep.
So the idea that we'll be speculative, allow developers to build out of character in our neighborhood, cross our fingers and hope we get these technology companies here, often doesn't pan out. The assets we have in this neighborhood are right before us. That's why people want to live here. That's why companies want to live here. That's why we have such a successful community. Am I right?
Yeah, baby.
Let's not kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Neighborhood character is enriching for all of us. If we don't have the protections from City Hall to preserve it, then everything could be lost. So I just want to thank Andrew Berman. Let's hear it again for the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation. My colleague in the Assembly, Deborah Glick. The Historic Districts Council, all of our neighbors who are here. We will fight on. We will win this fight. Am I right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Send it to Midtown.
Thanks so much. And this really is going to be a fight, and it's going to start in earnest at the beginning of the year. So we, as much as we've done, we're going to have to do even more after the new year. It is not going to be easy, but we can do it. We've done it before. We've forced other administrations to give us the protections that we need, that they've refused to do for year after year, and we are going to have to really put our shoulder to the wheel to make this happen. I would like to ask John Blasco to come up here. He's representing Councilmember Rosie Mendez'd, who I know would be here if she could be. She has been such a tremendous partner in this effort. She's term limited out, so she's leaving, which is sad because she's irreplaceable. I'm sure she's going to continue to do great things. I'm confident that her successor is going to be equal in terms of that fight, but I think it's very important that we hear a few words from Rosie, who has been with us from day one on this and really could not be a better elected official.
Good evening, everyone. For years, Councilwoman Mendez has requested and advocated for an amendment to the zoning resolution that would provide height limits and prevent out-of-scale development south of East 14th Street, specifically along University Place and Broadway, as well as from Astor Place to Union Square, along 3rd and 4th Avenues. The administration's reluctance and failure to act has led many developers to demolish residential or mixed-use buildings after purchasing contiguous buildings and creating an assemblage of multiple lots. Now, another developer is taking advantage of the existing zoning on St. Mark's Place and 3rd Avenue to build a $150 million boutique office building. We will continue to see development of this type that is out of character with the existing community as long as the zoning resolution remains as is. This is all a result of the administration not listening to us, the community, or the information that we have provided them. Councilwoman Rosie Mendez will continue to stand with GBSHP. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And this really is about a confluence of so many issues. It's about preserving the scale and character of our neighborhood. It's about affordable housing as well. And our next speaker is going to speak to that. She is Kathy Wakeham. She is representing the Met Council on Housing, which is a citywide advocate for affordable housing.
Hi. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Kathy Wakeham, and I have been in this community for over 40 years. And every time I go to the post office on East 11th Street, I start crying because 5 rent-stabilized buildings were demolished to make room for a Moxie Hotel.
Yep.
When I walk through the neighborhood that I love because of its vibrancy of immigrants, political activists, artists, bohemians, I see a rich culture being taken away by greedy developers who are tearing at the fabric of our community. I am asking Mayor de Blasio, City Planning Commissioner Lego, and Community Board 3 to support rezoning protection as proposed by the Greenwich Village Society for Historic Preservation, by Councilmember Rosie Mendez'd, and by others living in the community. This proposal would stop oversized development, protect the residential character of the area, and help protect and create affordable housing. A vote in support of the tech hub without such protections will be a vote for the overdevelopment and destruction of our neighborhood, and for building 300-foot tall high-rise luxury condos, tech offices, and hotels over appropriately scaled buildings and decent, affordable housing. I urge you to take action on this very important issue to preserve the heritage of our neighborhood, to protect our homes, and to protect and create much-needed affordable housing. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you so much. And our next speaker represents a community group with really deep roots in the community, going back to the 1960s and the fight against Robert Moses when he wanted to demolish much of this neighborhood. The Cooper Square Committee has been fighting for this neighborhood, for preserving our housing, our heritage, and the affordability of our neighborhood for decades now. They've done so much for this community, and we're so proud to have them as a partner in this effort. So I want to ask Steve Herrick from the Cooper Square Committee to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Andrew. When you look at this demolition that's going to be taking place across the street to build another large office building, you're just seeing the fabric of our community being totally transformed. We've seen what's happened to the Bowery and 3rd Avenue over the last decade because we weren't able to get stronger zoning protections for that area. And now we're looking at the impact that's going to be happening between 3rd Avenue extending all the way over towards Broadway, with all this Silicon Alley moving down from 14th Street down to Astor Place. And the impact on this community is going to be tremendous. We've got all these low-rise, mostly 5- and 6-story buildings in our community. Over 90% of the buildings in the area between 3rd and 4th Avenue have very limited amount of commercial space in them. But the zoning allows for much greater amounts of commercial development. And GVSHB and others have been pushing for stronger, sensible zoning changes to just limit the amount of commercial development that can happen in this area. And the mayor needs to act on it. We've all been pushing for that, and the Cooper Square Committee will continue to support the efforts to win stronger zoning protections for this area because there's so much at stake. We all value the open space and the low-rise character of this community. We don't want to see that totally ruined in order to bring in jobs that may not benefit many of the people in this community. So we'll continue to support your efforts and be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate it. I'm going to ask Tobi Bergman to come up and speak. Tobi is representing Community Board 2, which represents the neighborhood west of 4th Avenue. We're split between two community boards here, and Community Board 2 has been really so strong in its support for this rezoning effort.
Good evening, everybody. So I crossed the border over here tonight to read a statement from our chair, Terry Kuhn. In 2016, Community Board 2 passed a resolution supporting a proposal from GVSHP for contextual rezoning of Broadway below 14th Street from 4th Avenue to University Place. This rezoning would not reduce the allowed floor area in the corridor, but would protect the character of the area and prevent the proliferation of 30-story towers, and it would encourage affordable housing. At a follow-up meeting with the Planning Commissioner and senior staff, we were shown a slide presentation ostensibly demonstrating that there are no vulnerable sites in the area. Now, at least 3 proposals for out-of-scale projects are on the drawing board and others are in the pipeline. The city has not only backed away from the notion that there are no developable sites, but has embraced the extension of Midtown into Greenwich Village with wholesale neighborhood transformation. What was an impossible nightmare is suddenly the dream the administration wants to come true. What is at stake here is not just the attractive and successful character of our district, but the very balance that sustains this place as one of the city's vital mixed-use areas. We have seen what happens when neighborhoods transform and how fast it happens.
Yep.
Broadway in Soho became a shopping mall almost overnight.
Yep.
It's really simple. We want to keep the smaller stores and offices that serve this community. We don't want more of the national chain stores that are the only tenants of new office towers. We don't want the residents and businesses who make this community what it is to be driven out. And I'd also like to say a couple of words on my own behalf. I look out my bedroom window in the back of the building, and I look to the back of what was once the St. Denis Hotel. It was originally built in, I believe, 1852, and that building is now empty, or almost empty. When I first moved to that building, that building was a vibrant building. It was filled with dozens of small offices where people had small businesses, professional practices of various kinds, writers, people who cannot replace that space have already been driven out. So even if that building does last, and we think it probably will be torn down to build another high-rise office building, but even if the building structure does last, the life of that building is gone. The history of that building is now a sad one. The second thing I'd like to say on my own behalf is that I've been on Community Board 2 for 20 years. I've been chair of the Parks Committee, the Zoning Committee, and chair of the board. And over that period of time, I've learned, I think the most important lesson, the most important lesson that I've learned over that period of time is that good things are most likely to happen when everybody wins. And we have a situation where everybody can win. And that's the power of what's being proposed here today in terms of rezoning this neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Then you touch up to Midtown.
Thanks so much, Toby. Our next speaker is Valayteena Jones. She is from the Lower East Side Power Partnership. She is also a member of Community Board 3, and she's been a great supporter of this effort. And I want to ask her to come up here and say a couple of words.
Woo!
Most of my words are right here on this chart.
You hold it up to your mouth.
Most of my words are right here on this pictorial. And basically, I do not want a bunch of big, tall, red buildings in my neighborhood like they're trying to put all over the place. I think my story is right here in pictures. I do not want a bunch of tall towers that are totally out of place and displace a lot of people. And one of the things that generally happens when you have this kind of thing happening, generally people that get displaced are seniors. I'm living on a pension. I have worked my entire life as a nurse, and I feel that there should be some kind of preservation. I feel that in terms of growth, I believe in growth, but I believe in inclusionary growth.
Yeah.
I believe that I should be considered, that I have worked my entire life in this city, and that my life is worth something, and what I have done and contributed is worth something, and should be included in the plans going forward. And so there should be some kind of preservation of
Microphone by the mouth.
Of the culture and the life that I've lived. And that's all I think that I'm really asking for, is include and consider the life that I've lived. Include and consider that I am a senior, that I live on a fixed particular income, on a pension, and that I should be considered. I have contributed to this city, to this community. I went to NYU at a point, and I should be considered. And I think other seniors should be considered. The life we've lived should be considered. It should be inclusionary growth. We should be thought about in the process of going forward. There should be some preservation of some of what is here as we go forward. So that's really all that I'm really looking at, all that I'm really thinking about is the people that live here, the people that have contributed, that there should be some kind of preservation and consideration of what we have contributed. It should not just be lost and just be wiped aside by new things that come in. It should be considered. I have contributed, and I think that contribution is worthwhile, and I'm sure that quite a few of you look like we're in the same age group, and that you probably contributed to this community as well, and want to see some kind of preservation, some kind of retention of the housing that's here, as well as growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valayteena. And I just want to make one quick point. One of the things that we're trying to get here with this rezoning is there's actually kind of a loophole in the zoning for 3rd and 4th Avenue, which was rezoned in 2010 because GVSHP and Councilmember Mendez'd and Community Board 3 and neighborhood folks pushed to get it rezoned so that we got height limits and incentives for affordable housing. Except the city kept in this loophole that allows the developers to get around the affordable housing incentives by building purely commercial buildings. So all we're asking for is to get rid of that loophole so there isn't the incentive for them to build these hotels and office buildings that don't have affordable housing provisions attached to them, so that instead, if they do build, it's going to be residential buildings, and they're going to be buildings that there's a strong incentive or a requirement. We would be happy with a requirement for affordable housing in them. When we met with the mayor's city planning people 2 weeks ago, they said absolutely not. They like the zoning just the way it is, and they want it to continue to do what it's doing. So we're either going to have to change some minds or we're going to have to force some hands. And I think forcing some hands is what this is going to come down to, which ultimately is going to require our city council members standing with us and saying to the mayor, the only way you're going to get your tech hub approval is if I get my protections from my neighborhood. And that's what we've got to demand. So our next speaker is Richard Moses from the Lower East Side Preservation Initiative, one of the many wonderful groups working to protect this neighborhood, who's been a supporter and a partner in this effort. Richard.
Thank you, Andrew. I just want to say that we at Lower East Side Preservation Initiative are both terrified and angry at the idea of a 3rd and 4th Avenue and East 14th Street lined with classy, boxy office buildings and really the character of our neighborhood being obliterated. We're also terrified and angry at the idea of a domino effect where all this development and commercial development leads to more pressure on 2nd Avenue, 1st Avenue, and onward going east as well as westward. And so we're really looking for the mayor and the city administration to start listening to us as residents, neighbors, and even workers to make sure that our voices are heard. And they really need to be. And to have our voices heard, we have to keep rallying like this. We have to do more rallying, as Andrew said. We have to do more letter writing and really make sure that we're in everybody's faces so that there's no chance for people to back down. So thank you, Andrew, and we got to keep up the good fight here.
We absolutely do. And a group that's no stranger to fighting is the Bowery Alliance of Neighbors. And I want to ask David Mulkins from band to come up and say a few words. And I also want to ask if there's any of the other speakers from the other groups who are still left who I haven't called on yet. Just make sure you come up over here and let me know you're here. David Mulkins.
Woo! Yay, Bowery Alliance of Neighbors.
Can you hear me?
No, hit the button.
How about now?
No.
Okay. This monstrously out-of-scale garbage dump of a building behind me is known by the community as the Death Star. If this proposed
tech hub is approved without first giving this area protective rezoning, we can expect many more Death Stars and increased displacement of residents and small businesses and an obliteration of this area's historical sense of place. A few months ago, 5 historic buildings on East 11th Street were demolished and its longtime residents pushed out to make way for a big monster boutique hotel. Sensible cities like Paris don't allow tall towers to invade historic neighborhoods, and they certainly would not approve this tech hub unless they first made sure that the neighborhood would be protected. I'm a former history teacher. I hope you will allow me this digression. When the Spanish conquistadors conquered the Aztecs' beautiful legendary capital of Tenochtitlan, rather than preserve it, they destroyed everything and built Mexico City on top of it. If this city does not enact sensible contextual zoning protections, the developers and tech hub conquistadors will bury this area with eyesore towers of glass and steel like that one, and a hyper-gentrification that will displace residents, small businesses, the community's diversity, and the historic character of this community. Mr. Mayor, do the right thing. Approve the 3rd and 4th Avenue rezoning plan before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And by the way, the developer who bought the building on Broadway and 11th Street is actually looking at this building as a model of what they want to build on that site, and they could build a building this big or bigger there. So this is serious stuff. Last but by no means least is Laura Sewell from the East Village Community Coalition, which is a wonderful group who's been with us from the beginning in this and so many other preservation efforts in the neighborhood. They do so much in terms of small business and neighborhood preservation and making our neighborhoods livable. I want to ask Laura Sewell to come up here and say a couple of words.
The East Village Community Coalition strongly supports the sensible and reasonable rezoning of 3rd and 4th Avenues. We live in the midst of a citywide building boom. There are 5 projects within 2 blocks of my residence in the East Village. Without the contextual rezoning approved by the City Council in 2008, our large shared courtyard, designed to bring light and air into the surrounding buildings, would be darkened by the eternal shadow of glass towers. Our zoning protects residents, businesses, and existing buildings, and provides incentives to sustain affordable housing. This residential area deserves the same protections we have to the east, not zoning that favors commercial development at the community's expense. Development pressure here is increasing. You need only look north to count the number of buildings under construction. And for what? The luxury condo market is saturated. The hotel market is saturated.
Right.
We've already lost 100 units of affordable housing to make way for another 300-room hotel for partying transients. We call for timely community planning that is accountable to the people who live here before it is too late.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And actually now, the actual last but not least is actually 2 speakers who are merchants in the neighborhood who are really kind of the foundation of what makes these our communities so special. I want to ask Lorcan Otway from Theater 80 and Jimmy Carbone from the East Village Independent Merchants Association to come up and each say a few words.
Go Lorcan! Yeah!
Good evening. Good evening. Is that working? Good. Okay. Good evening. When in 1964 my dad and I built Theater 80, there was no East Village. It was Lower East Side. The only East Village was that very corner, that very building, the Village East Restaurant. That is the building that gave this district its name. Now, when St. Mark's Place is all tall buildings like that, it will be just a name. There will be no East Village, there will be no cultural center, and the effect on neighborhood businesses is devastating. That's enough for me. I want to turn it over to Jimmy.
Press and hold, okay. There's a lot of merchants here. I know Tom from Vasal could put your hand up, Abby from Lucky Bar, Lorcan, Theater 80. The funny thing is what's going on is that we came together as merchants after the East Village gas explosion just 2.5 years ago. Elected officials like Deborah Glick and Brad Hoylman have been, behind us. Last Thursday we were just at a event with Jeremiah's Vanishing New York and talking about the importance of small business and the character of the city. And something like this is going to happen, and all the work that we've done and the lives that we want to have are going to be gone. And we're just here to know that small businesses are here with you guys. We're just in the trenches with you, and we're always behind GVSHP. So let's all do what he says. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In some ways I'm kind of an eternal optimist, and I have to say I feel more optimistic even after this evening, seeing the breadth and the depth of support we have for making sure that this happens. But it is going to be work. Coming out here tonight is really important, but it's just one step in the process. Everybody, if you don't have it, make sure you get one of these signs, which you can hold up as you walk home, but more importantly, it's got your marching orders on it on the back. You need to send those 3 emails. You need to send an email to Mayor de Blasio saying you need to support these protections for this neighborhood. You need to check your priorities and make sure that you are protecting the people of the city of New York. You need to send an email to Borough President Brewer, who is a supporter of those protections, but who we need to get to take a stand to say that her support for the tech hub is conditioned upon protections for the neighborhood, which will otherwise be devastated if the tech hub is built without those protections. And then finally, send an email, and each of these will take you 5 seconds. Send an email to Carlina Rivera, our newly elected city council member for District 2, which represents all of this area. Carlina has made a very strong and very public pledge that her support for the tech hub would be contingent upon getting the city to provide these protections. She's going to face tremendous pressure from the mayor and others to back down on that. We need to let her know that we support her, that we are behind her, that we will be with her 100% fighting to ensure that these protections for our neighborhood come along with any approvals for that tech hub one way or the other. So thank you very much, everybody, merchants, community leaders, affordable housing advocates, elected officials, community board members, for being here tonight. This was a great night. We sent a great message. We got to move forward with this fight, and we're going to do it. Thank you very much.